Hey everyone, welcome back to the Roland J-6 Chord Synthesizer. My favorite fan got me this for Christmas. Thank you very much. And I wanted to go through a few of the things that I like about this and why I got it. And does it play nice with the Korg Volcas? We already know it does, but there's some tricks with that as well. So really quickly, this is in pattern mode. That's a pattern bank 3, pattern 4. I've got a blank pattern selected. I did that because I wanted a blank slate scenario. This is your chord sequencer. When none of these buttons are lit up over here, sound or pattern, you're in sequence mode. And if you click any of these, you're editing that sequence. So I'm editing step 3, step 1, step 6, and that's when I would be plugging in chords or notes. Without that mode, we're just listening to this electric piano sound that's in sound bank 1, slot 1. I think of this side here, these are your banks. So there's 8 banks of sounds with a slot for each sound, 64 sounds. Likewise, there's 8 banks for patterns with a slot for each pattern. And you can fill up all 64 slots or just use a few of those slots in the pattern. These on the right I think of as your chord playback style sculpting and sort of a sketchbook. So if I want to experiment with sounds and variations, I don't need to program a pattern. I can just select a sound. Let's select 4, 3. And I will go into chord mode, and I can practice with the chords. Now, there's a chord bank of 100 different chord combinations. You'll need to look at the manual to see this chart. It's quite extensive. And each bank has a set of 12 different chords set up. In order to select a chord genre, we hold Shift and press chord, and then we can select from one of 100 different banks. As we go up, it just switches into the next octave, so we can shift octave down. So that's in chord select mode. We can just get out of that. So if I want to check out a variation or a style, I'm going to switch over to style and turn it on. If I want to just check out the variation, so that's how hold works. That's how chord works. I can go right back and just play the single notes. Let's pick A. This is why I got the thing. It sounds so great. Let's go back to a pluck here. Whoa. Now, the delay, reverb, filter, and envelope are all saved per pattern. You have to have something in your pattern. I'm on bank 3, pattern 4, and if I go to pattern, turn off the pattern, nothing is saved here. None of the slots have something saved. So I have to save at least one pattern. So I'm going to make a chord here. Now I'm basically programming a chord into this slot. And think of this slot as a whole measure of quarter notes. And each of these is now a note. I can only program max of 4 notes. And that's across octaves. So if I go down an octave or go up an octave, those notes count as well. So I could turn this down and put it here. Oop, no, I can't. I got to take it off there first, and then I'll put it there. So now we can sculpt the sound. By default, the filter is your cutoff. If I hold shift, it's your resonance. So if we want to test this out, we hit hold and we hit chord. It's too low. Let's go up an octave. Delay, you can all types of divisions, tempos, reverb as well. You can set the time by holding in shift, or the size or amount, wet versus dry. Now if I save this, let's save this for this track. I'm going to go shift, right, enter, save that pattern. So that particular chord on that step is saved. And if I press play, it just plays that. I don't have any variations on, but I'm going to turn a variation on here. Let's do that. Go back to where we were. So that pattern's saved. It's down an octave, so maybe I want to go fix that. Let's go back in here. Go down an octave. Yeah, I don't want it there. Let's turn that off. Go back up here. And let's put that back in. Now let's keep that variation on. Actually, I'm going to put 2 more chords in. I'm going to put a different chord here. No, I'm going to put the same chord there. I'm going to be in step mode and then shift menu, and then I can copy it, and I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to move over to step 2, and I am going to paste, enter. So I should have 2 of the same chord in. So let's press play. Yep. So 3, I'm going to put a different chord in. And 4, I'm going to put D. And then I want it to loop. So in order to get it to loop, I'm going to get out of this mode and then change the last step. Now the last step is the number of steps. You can have 64 steps across subsequent banks. I only want the first 4 to play, so I turn this down to 4 and exit. It's just using this default variation in style. Now, if I wanted to, I could go to each individual step. I could go to step 3, turn on variation, and let's make it 7 for this. All right, and then we're going to save that step. the interesting thing about this is if you have a variation on here, but you don't have variations programmed, it will use your default variation until it hits a step with variation programmed. So once it hits a step with a variation programmed, it will use that one if there's nothing programmed on any subsequent steps, including you looping back. So if you're going to use different variations on steps, you really want to set them on every step. Otherwise, unless you want that, effect. Otherwise, you're going to get a strange effect as it loops around. Yeah, I mean, really, that's about it. You can save your delay and your patch settings in your pattern only if you've got at least one sequence added. So you got to have at least one sequence, set your filter and your envelope and your delay, and it will save it for the whole pattern. So now let's get into whether this plays nice with a Korg Volca Bass. And as we've seen other performers do, it does work. However, I found out something pretty interesting. Two things. The manual says to only use a mono patch cable for sync. And I thought to myself, that doesn't make any sense. But I figured I'm going to take a chance and use a regular Korg patch cable and try it out and see what happens. So what I want to know is, can I sync in? And let's set our tempo here to 120. Let's set it to 110. And let's program in a simple arpeggio here. So the other cool thing about this is mix in is a straight dry pass through. It does not go through any of these effects. It just passes through. It doesn't even go through the volume. This is really cool because I can just add this into my chain without needing to use up a mixer slot. So I'm normally going to be going after the NTS and all the Korgs into this, but today I'm just going directly from the Korg out to mix in here. Let's do a simple G arpeggio instead. Let's clear that part. Turn active steps are still on. Good. So step record. Let's do all right, let's see if that. So it works well. The thing that I found when I started from factory mode in menu, if you go to sync clock, when I hit enter, it was set to 4 on factory. Now let's listen to what happens if we keep it at 4 and press play. So this is basically running at half tempo. So the default setting, I had to switch it. Now, I don't know. Maybe it is something to do with the stereo patch cable here. I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's just a setting. I don't have a mono patch cable. Anyway, sync seems to work fine. Pass-through is a dry mix. This is a really sweet machine. I love it. I'm looking forward to exploring some of the more interesting settings. Like if you go into menu, you can also, any of these first 4 settings will be saved with the pattern if you make changes to the pattern. So you can change the volume, you can change the transposition, but it applies to every step in the sequence. This is your delay synchronization. So if you turn that off, this delay isn't going to be synced with the tempo. MIDI through, dude, MIDI through. I so wish the Volca FM had MIDI through. This has MIDI through. I love it. You can change the master tune. The funny thing is you can't go down to 432, which is natural A is 432, but you can only go to 433 if you want to do some detuning. This is ready to go for lo-fi, synthwave, dance tracks, or just sketching in an idea engine for making some chords and getting a tune going. You're going to be all set up with the right kind of sounds. This is going to be a wonderful thing. Let's just jam out with this tune here. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe a different sound. Wow, you guys, I love this thing. It's amazing. It sounds amazing to me. I can't wait to make some more music with it. Stay tuned, obviously, for that. Hope you enjoyed this little kind of breakdown of the Roland J-6, how it works, and it's useful for you. Remember, it only works if the power's on.